anyone know the derivation of the word monde and what it would then imply? The word comes from the Latin. It comes from the same root from which you get the word mandate. It means to do what is commanded or do what one is told to do. And in the context of John 13, Jesus washed the disciples' feet and said, do the same thing to one another. Do what I have done to you. So Maundy, Thursday, there's a command in there. Also, who knows the difference between a sacrament and an ordinance? A sacrament, well, you folks are lucky to be here. Everyone's taking notes. Oh, there we go. Good for you, Lyle. A sacrament is something which is believed to convey grace. That you've got to do something in order to receive God's grace. An ordinance is something which you are told to do, and usually it is an example of or a reminder of God's grace. I want to focus on the word, mandate and ordinance. There are some things that we have been told to do as a church. And actually, if you look at a couple of the scripture readings, Jesus washed the feet of the disciples, which was the job of the lowest servant, because it was such a nasty job. People were walking, they often wore sandals. Lots more livestock around then than there is now. And when you came to someone's house, it was a matter of politeness and hygiene to wash people's feet. But again, it was the low person on the totem pole that got to do that, because it was just nasty and demeaning. Today I think the equivalent would be more like cleaning out one another's basement or cleaning one another's bathrooms. That kind of demeaning sort of job, that sort of demeaning kind of task. In Romans, Paul gives sort of a very similar kind of command, if you will. He says, don't please yourself, please your neighbor. And people have taken these verses to suggest that a life of faith should look a lot like being a doormat. That we should live just to serve others and please others. And even in extreme situations, abuse and dysfunction is often maintained in the name of serving and pleasing. A lot of, I can tell you, whenever I hold my children accountable, or try to hold my children accountable, they try to bring up the topic of forgiveness. Now, remembering for some reason that I've done Bible studies and I know dead languages, and if I don't educate them, I'll at least bore them to death. But how do we look at these scripture verses and what do they mean? What are we really supposed to be doing to one another if we're supposed to consider ourselves the lowliest of servants, serving one another? And if we're supposed to be doing what pleases one another, where do we draw the line? And how do we know what direction we go in? Well, again, those dead languages come in real handy. Because the word in Romans 15, to please, can mean to please or to satisfy. One way that it can be translated or understood is to act in a way which is in consideration of the needs or limitations of another. If you were inviting someone over to your meat offered to idols that would pull them back into a lot of other beliefs and practices that were against Christian beliefs. Kind of like, you know, you have someone coming over to your home who's a recovering alcoholic, you don't serve liquor. Now, there's anything wrong with a glass of wine in and of itself, but that might be a little bit too much for that individual. I have been told by many recovering alcoholics, only takes one taste